This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
So I do want to bring up AJ winds up leaving the company December 2013, ends his 11-year run in the company. And the rumor and innuendo at the time was that TNA was looking to cut AJ's money by quite a lot. And really, it was just time for him to move on. Just to add context to this, when did you move along from all things TNA?
Me?
Yep, you personally, Jeff Jarrett.
So these last set of tapings, I knew the AJ and I was frustrated, but Conrad, I resigned December 21st, 2013.
Okay.
Me and my attorney, for 2013, the entire year, 11 out of the 12 months, early December is when the Carters put the nail in the coffin for me and Toby to acquire majority interest. We knew it was game, set, match. It's not happening. I knew I had to go. I was just talking to my attorney and nobody else, obviously within the house. I knew I was moving. I had also actually heard that, I was a part of everything, and me and Toby trying to acquire it and everything. And I knew Dixie's position on all of it because of for lack of a better word, the financial death spiral the company was in, that AJ's money was getting cut, and they wanted to cut AJ's money, but not dates. And he wasn't he said, "You cutting my money, I'm cutting my dates." And it was just not just AJ's contract, everybody's. It was a complete, utter mess. But I knew that these were my last TVs to produce. And I produced the Nick Aldis, AJ Styles match and Earl Hebner. And I told my attorney, I said, I'm going to give this is it for me. Nobody knew it around me, but I'm going to these TVs and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make whatever I'm contributing to the very best. And it's kind of fitting that my very last match that I ever produced in TNA, like the last thing that I ever did officially for TNA, was produce an AJ Styles world title match. And had a lot of fun with it. Earl was involved. Nick Aldis had a concussion. We had to do a lot of gaga, a lot of smoke and mirrors, but that was that. I did not know that AJ was so willing to commit to the product that he was going to re-sign. I found this out later, but they still wanted to cut his dates, knowing that they were going back on dates. And they said some awful things to Bill, the attorneys, and devalued AJ. They basically forced AJ against his will to leave. It's amazing. I mean, truly amazing. I say all that to say, let me just finish. I want to, because this is the most important part. That's how committed AJ Styles was to the brand. He was TNA through and through. He had to be essentially forced out.
I wish I had the right follow-up question for that, but it just feels like something that should have never happened. And for me, I knew when things were tough that, you guys are running a business and you got to make decisions and what have you. But TNA without AJ Styles just didn't feel like TNA anymore to me.
I couldn't. Okay. Now I resigned in December, had no idea of what Bill and AJ's decision was going to be. I left, knew that I was going to put the building blocks together, still had the agreement with Toby and where we were headed and everything. When I heard that he was gone, I literally could not believe it. He embodied the brand. And in my view, and I really thought the Carters would view it this way, but that was another kind of building block that they had completely disconnected. Pay everybody. I mean, pay. If you're going to pay anybody, pay AJ. Don't lose him. Literally, do not lose AJ Styles to the TNA brand. I think a lot of ways, not to get into it, but, and I said it, Cody doing the sledgehammer for AEW, it's so synonymous with that brand. That's kind of the one guy you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
I know it's completely different stories and time frames and all that. But as it relates to AJ and TNA, I just could not believe that they let him go, knowing that AJ would have done anything to stay.
So if you know that that's the case, and I'm sure when you're winding things down here in late 2013, we know that you're going to start teasing something and around WrestleMania in 2014, announce GFW. And we'll talk about that another time. But were you reaching out to AJ to take the temperature to see if there was a chance to get the band back together on that side?
Well, you just watched, where he was headed. Ring of Honor, New Japan. I knew that I wanted to create these relationships with AAA and New Japan and all that. I never dreamed we were going to take it to where we did. Him going to New Japan, becoming their champion, the Bullet Club as red hot as it was, them reaching out to me to promote Wrestle Kingdom in the States, all those dominoes that fell. But of course, me and AJ stayed in contact.
Just want to remind everybody, they did a television taping here on December 5th, and it's going to air on January 9th. And that's where Magnus would beat AJ to unify the title. Sting was trying to interfere on Styles' behalf, but that winds up being AJ's last match, because on December 8th, it's reported that the contract negotiations had broken down and that he would be leaving, effectively becoming a free agent on December 17th. That would end a 12-year run with the company. And AJ has since noted that they were trying to reduce his salary by about 60%. So I understand it's a cost-cutting measure and it's business and you got to do what you got to do, but so did AJ. And I would say it worked out.
You think?
He went on to sign with New Japan Pro Wrestling, became a member of the Bullet Club, and won their big belt, the IWGP Championship, in just under a month. And it feels as if that wouldn't have happened if he would have stayed in TNA. And I don't know that he would have ultimately gotten the nod to be such a big deal with the WWE had he not had the run in Japan. So it might not have been his original plan, but boy, he made a lot of money as the result of this, did he not?
His ways and his in a capital H are higher than our ways.
Yes.
That plan that was rolled out and laid out, that was a part of when I saw AJ Hall of Fame weekend and got to give him a big hug. Look, the Bullet Club, and we didn't know where things were going. And man, when he walked out in Orlando for the Royal Rumble in his WWE debut,
Huge pop.
Real.
Yes.
Just a little, that was real. It wasn't something, a precondition by WWE's magnificent production. It wasn't a storyline. None of that.
Yeah.
That was a real emotional connection that the fans of AJ Styles, cream always rises to the top. I mean, and that Bullet Club was so red hot with him and Doc and Carl and all that kind of stuff. But the step from end of 2013 to his WWE debut, whew, big time, really big time.
I guess we should mention, because I don't know when we'll talk about it again, your sorry ass signs.
Las Cuatro Caballeros and NWO 2000.
Now you're trying to ruin another promotion. You sign a deal with New Japan, and that deal is so Global Force can partner up with them. August 10th, you make your presence known. Tanahashi defeats AJ in a non-title match, and you come out to try to save Tanahashi from the Bullet Club. But when Scott D'Amore opens your guitar case, the guitar has Bullet Club on it, and you clock Tanahashi over the head with it. And now, somehow, the Forrest Gump of wrestling that you are, you become a member of the damn Bullet Club.
Conrad, when they told me, can you bring a guitar to Japan and can you have Bullet Club on it? I'm like, yeah. And so we did the story earlier in the night that was a real, because of the New Japan and Wrestle Kingdom 9 and that relationship, all that. But I had been a babyface out with the executives of the company in the ring earlier in the night. So when I ran down to save Tanahashi, the whole building thought, oh my gosh, here comes the Double J to save the day. And when I got that guitar and cracked it, Tanahashi told me the next day that his kids literally cried. They cried. because their father got whacked. But old Gump, life is like a box of chocolates, Conrad Thompson, the office member of the Bullet Club. You love it. You can't deny it. You can't deny that I was NWO. You can't deny that I wasn't a horseman. I was the horseman because all the other ones were on the shelf at the time. And a member of the Bullet Club, pal. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Well, we know that AJ is going to have incredible success in New Japan. He comes over, gets a huge reaction, debuting at the Royal Rumble, and is very quickly a top guy, working with the likes of Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, working with Roman Reigns on pay-per-view, winning the big belt. I mean, this is where we really see once and for all, AJ wasn't a big fish in a small pond. AJ was a huge talent no matter where he went. It's a shame that he didn't wind up just retiring with one jersey and finishing up things with Impact. I think that's sweet and that's cool and that's romantic or what have you. And we can reminisce about the good old days. But man, there's always going to be something about winning the WWE Championship, being at a WrestleMania. We love the alternatives, but let's not pretend that doesn't exist. Right, Jeff?
Can I tell you a little thing that kind of ties a lot of it together?
Sure.
And I'll say, oh, you didn't know? And it's his story. But our colleague, BG James, was very instrumental in bringing AJ. I mean, our BG, Brian, Road Dogg, was very instrumental in bringing AJ into the WWE because of his position at the time with the company. And so I think it's kind of cool how all that and how literally AJ was such a tried and true and committed to his core. He was going to go back to Impact with Doc and Carl. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Before he signed with WWE, he was that committed to the brand, and that completely was in shambles and fell apart, and no need to point fingers or go into that story. But just how things worked out, and Road Dogg was instrumental in bringing AJ to the dance, and it all worked out. And AJ Styles is a first ballot Hall of Famer, any way you want to say it. The match with Undertaker, I mean, we could go down the whole list. He's still rocking and rolling at 45. So hats off to my man, Alan Jones from North Georgia, who was a landscaper. And, you know, I think about funny stories. Down in Orlando, Conrad, I was going to share this earlier, when we would stay for 2 and 3 and 4 days at a time, you know, Karen would come with the kids and swim and all that. AJ wouldn't be at Red River Saloon. That's kind of the drinking area of Keith Mitchell and others. AJ, after tapings, would be in the pool sometimes with my kids, his kids. But I mean, he would be swimming with them, and he would teach them to do flips and all kinds of stuff with my girls. So that's the little personal stories of AJ. He knew my first wife. He went to the Orlando pool, and Karen and Wendy and the family. And then his kids are now great high school athletes. And it's a pretty cool story, man. It is really a cool story.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.